What's good, Commanders fans? So, just watched Eric Bieniemy's press conference. Of course, it was awful on the Washington Commanders YouTube and on their Twitter. I had to go to WUSA 9. A couple people sent me the link to WUSA 9 and like ABC 7 for their live broadcast feed because that was just awful. It was very disrespectful to Eric Bieniemy to have glitches every 10 seconds. Just very unprofessional from the Commanders. And this has happened in the past. But I don't want to let that distract from how good of a press conference that Eric Bieniemy had. And I've said before, I don't want to get caught up in press conferences because, Carson Wentz had a great press conference last year. And look how he played. We've seen people have really good press. The Lions coach, Dan Campbell, even the Lions are playing better, biting off kneecaps and stuff like that. We've seen people have good press conferences and it has not panned out. But I think Eric Bieniemy did a heck of a job. The notion or the narrative that he cannot have a good interview or that he interviews terrible definitely was debunked today. That's why I didn't believe in that narrative, in my opinion. I know I wasn't there when he interviewed for other teams, but I just didn't believe that it was I didn't believe that he was an awful interview. I don't know, whatever owners were saying, maybe he was stuttering over his words and stuff like that. I did not believe that at all, that he was a bad interview. So he definitely debunked that today. John Keim asked him, why Washington? And Eric Bieniemy said, why not Washington? And I love that answer. He said the talent on offense and the talent on defense. He named Brian Robinson. He named Terry. He named Sam Iam. He named Jahan. He didn't name anybody on defense, but he said just the talent on offense and defense. I think it was Pete Haley asked him about, the head coaching thing and just like, why you're not having a head coach job and stuff like that. Basically, he said he's not worried about that. He's going to be where his feet are. That's stuff that Ron Rivera says a lot. That's stuff that Andy Reid says a lot as well. Then he opened up with a joke talking about Nikki Javala. He said, Nikki, I don't know why. I'm surprised you didn't ask the first question because, she gave him a tough time at the Super Bowl. So he was joking around about that. Of course, Ron opened up the presser saying, we got our guy. And Eric Bieniemy confirmed that, it was Ron Rivera who was the lead guy in getting this done and getting the interviews done and getting Eric Bieniemy to come here. So that was news that I knew. He didn't mention Dan Snyder's name not one time. He did mention Jason Wright. He mentioned Martin Mayhew. He mentioned Eric Stokes. He mentioned Marty Herney. So he mentioned basically everybody but Daniel Snyder. And that definitely stood out to me. So I'm gonna read some quotes here that I saw. John Conley says Bieniemy said he's not focused on becoming a head coach. He said, I'm where my feet are. And then he said also, Eric Bieniemy also said, looking at these guys up front, Eric Bieniemy is fired up. So Eric Bieniemy, during the press conference, he did talk in third person a lot. You can just hear the energy in his voice, man. He does make you want to run through a wall for him. The energy, the fire, and the passion. I know a lot of people say, or players have said that he's an abrasive coach, that he yells a lot, he curses people out. You can definitely get that. You definitely can tell by the way he talks. He's a very intense guy, very passionate guy. And he said, I'm fired up, bro. I'm fired up, bro. And Pete Haley asked about play calling, that he's taking over the play calling. He's going to have full autonomy over it. And Eric Bieniemy said, I'm fired up, bro. I'm fired up, bro. So you can just hear the energy. Yeah, he said, looking at these guys in the front, I'm fired up. I'm fired up, bro. Eric Bieniemy also went on to say, right now I'm the offensive coordinator of the Washington Commanders. Being a head coach, if that's to happen, that'll take care of itself. So, he took the high road on a lot of questions. He didn't blame anybody else or blame any circumstances or bring up, outside stuff on why he did not get a head coaching job. He just basically deflected that. He just said, he's going to be where his feet are right now. And then he also said, being a head coach hasn't happened, and I'm not concerned. All that stuff on being a head coach, we can talk about that next year. I got to be the best at this right now. So he's really just focused on where he is right now. He's not answering. He didn't really answer any questions on whether saying he's upset that he's not a head coach. He's just saying that he's focused right now. So David Aldridge also asked a question about his non-negotiables with players. He said lack of details. And I say that nothing is ever perfect, but if you can't play with any effort, I got a personal problem with that. So, Adrian Peterson said in the past that he takes a lot of notes. He wants players to take notes. He wants his running backs to take notes, all his players to take notes. He's he's an attention to detail kind of guy. Pat Mahomes talked about him holding him accountable. You heard the good things that Tyreek Hill had to say about Eric Bieniemy. Eric Bieniemy also talked about connecting with players as people, being personable with players, so he can get to know each player to get them better. He talked about his time in college, being a college coach. He had to get to know players, meet their families. So he wants to really get to know these guys on a personal level to get the best out of them. Guys, Sam Howell, Terry, whoever. Sadiq Charles was even in the front row. Cam Curl was in the front row. So Just everybody out there, he's going to try to get the best out of them, for sure. One thing they talked about his time. They asked him about his time in KC. He quoted to say, he said, "Comfort is the enemy of progress." So of course he was comfortable with Pat Mahomes, comfortable with Andy Reid, comfortable with Tyreek Hill, comfortable with Travis Kelce. You have all that talent around you, and that's the knock on him, is that he had all that talent around him. He had a Hall of Fame head coach, a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame tight end. Tyreek Hill, if he plays the way he has in his first couple of years, he's potentially a Hall of Fame wide receiver. So that was the knock on Eric Bieniemy, that he was very comfortable being under Andy Reid or being next to Pat Mahomes. And now this is a situation where he is going to be uncomfortable, because this is not a former Panther. This is not a guy that's worked with Ron for X amount of years in Carolina, like Scott Turner or other coaches that have been brought in. This is a guy who hasn't really worked with Ron much in his career, but he said he did work with Ron in like 1999 with the Eagles or something like that. So he is familiar with Ron Rivera. And Eric Bieniemy says, "I don't like being comfortable." Eric Bieniemy says, "It's a challenge to work with such a great head coach, Ron Rivera. We're going to focus on the prize." So we'll see how he meshes. Eric Bieniemy was fired up about fired up about getting to call plays. Says that job titles really don't matter right now. Right now, I'm the offensive coordinator. Other Washington Commanders, what's important today? And says accountability is most important. Let me see if there's any other notes that I have right now. Oh, and then they did ask him about LaShawn McCoy. They did ask him about LaShawn McCoy after the press conference. I did think somebody was going to ask him about LaShawn McCoy's comments, if you didn't hear from Fox Sports 1. Basically saying that Eric Bieniemy has no value. He doesn't call plays. He's quiet in the meetings. He just dog cusses the players out. Eric Bieniemy, once again, took the high road. He was very professional in the press conference. He had a nice suit on, kind of like a pastor type of suit, nice three-piece suit on. He just said LaShawn McCoy is a future Hall of Famer. He's entitled to his own opinion. He's just not going to get into that. He's only going to focus on what's in between the four walls of Washington right now. So, but yeah, Eric Bieniemy, man, he's the assistant head coach. So, like I said in my previous video, I really want him to call. I want him to not only just call plays. And he said he wants urgency in the offense. That's one thing I did not see from Scott Turner. There was a lot of times where I thought they could have pushed the gas and pushed the pedal and put some teams away when we did have some leads. Like the Texans, they were kind of playing around with them. The Giants game, the first game, we were kind of playing around with the Giants. Thought we could have put them away in the first half when we were up 10-0. He wants urgency. I didn't see any up-tempo offense. I didn't see any no-huddle to help Taylor Heineke out at all. And when plays were actually working, we didn't put our foot on their necks at all and go up-tempo. I do want to see some of that. The end of halves, the terrible timeouts by Ron Rivera, or just not even calling timeouts, clock management, just not understanding clock management. Now, Eric Bieniemy, he said he's not a stats guy or analytics guy. I do believe in looking at stats and analytics. There are some times where, of course, it's just more feel of the game than analytics. You just have to know momentum, when to go for it on fourth down and when not to, when to go for it on two-point conversion or not to. Clock management is huge. People say that Eric Bieniemy told Jerick McKinnon to slide and not get a touchdown so the clock could just keep running, tick, 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 tick in the Super Bowl. Pat Mahomes said that, Eric Bieniemy does stuff like that. He coaches on the little things. It may be like a little annoying stuff, small stuff that you don't think about that may not happen every game, but that was big for Jerick McKinnon to slide right before the end of the game, and they could just take knees in the game against the Eagles or kick the field goal or whatever happened at the end of the Eagles game. So that's huge on Eric Bieniemy's part as well. Sense of urgency that stood out to me. He did say to be patient with them. It's going to be a slow process. I did not like that part because you just don't know how many years you're gonna be here, especially with a new owner coming in. It is somewhat of a lame duck year with the new ownership coming in. Can they get the best out of Sam Howell? So this is a 1 year trial. It is what it is. Call it what it is. I mean, it's a 1 year trial. It's a 1 year prove it deal. It is a multi-year deal. But the new owner, whoever it is, if they don't perform well, let's say they go 6-11 or 5-12 or even 7-10. Like Ron Rivera usually does, or 8-1, the new owner could come in and be like, hey, I just want to start fresh and clean house. Now, if they go 10-7, 11-6, or 12-5 or something, of course the new owner is going to come in and keep these guys and keep everybody. And maybe Eric Bieniemy potentially could become a head coach. Like I said, you talk to third person a lot, talking about Eric Bieniemy can do this and that and stuff like that. Some days that they'll be down against Jack Del Rio in practice. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days, of course. Embrace the journey with Mr. Rivera, Mr. Stokes, and Mr. Mayhew. That's one of the notes I wrote down as well. He did say Andy Reid was like a father figure to him as a head coach. Yeah, and he said he's texted Sam Howell, he's texted Brian Robinson, he's texted Terry McLaurin. He did bring up Antonio Gibson as well. So he has reached out to some of the players already. So I did miss some of the pressure because it was just so glitchy and so awful at times. But I'm excited, man. This was a good presser. I thought he did a heck of a job. I thought he knocked it out of the park. Like I said, other people have knocked it out of the park, and they haven't done well as as coaches or players. Mark Sanchez, he had a really good presser when he came into, and he was just awful. But I think Eric Bieniemy, I think is a good hire. I'm intrigued to see what he does, what his philosophy is, how he comes off with the players, how he connects with the players. Some people respond differently to yelling and choice words and colorful words. So I think these guys, Terry McLaurin is a guy who's a leader. Sam Howell, I think he's a young guy who I think can be potentially be a good leader. So I think the guys will respond to well to tough coaching, and I think some of that is what they need right now. I do think I do think they need that, and then there's some days where Eric Bieniemy is going to have to probably ease up a little bit, just to connect with the players and just learn and adapt to how they respond well. I'm not saying to coddle players and whatnot, but sometimes there are days where, hey, you may have to come off as, ease up a little bit on guys just to get the best out of them. But, he's an attention to detail kind of guy. He's a tough guy. He wants the best out of you, and accountability is a huge thing for him. You watch the clips on Hard Knocks with him and Adrian Peterson. Jamal Charles has backed him a lot. Tyreek Hill said that he is a yeller, but as a man, as a person, Tyreek Hill, Eric Bieniemy got the best out of him. Adrian Peterson definitely appreciates Eric Bieniemy, and also Jamal Charles has said great things about him. Travis Kelce has said great things. Pat Mahomes has said great things about Eric Bieniemy as well. So I'm intrigued to hear if he's taking over clock management and stuff like that and decision making. I do want to hear that from Ron Rivera, of course. But I thought he got an A. I give him an A+ today. I thought he did a heck of a job in the presser. I thought they didn't really. I don't think they really asked him what he thought about about Sam Howell. And there was something else I wanted them to ask him, but. Or they could have been direct, like, how do you feel with the two Eagles coordinators getting jobs over you? They could have been a little bit more direct about that. But I thought the interviewers, I thought the media did a solid job. So, all right, you guys let me know what you guys think. I'll be coming out with another video pretty soon, of course, about Commanders football and all that. Hell, Commanders. Peace.